What's up? It's your boy Noble with another deck tag. If you're a filthy degenerate like me and your playgroup doesn't ask you back, then this shell is for you. Imhotep is totally a son of a bitch and can combo out of anything. I submit for your approval a shell and strategy that, if played correctly, will make you archenemy number one. Imhotep is assembling his army. He needs resources and functioning soldiers. The payoff for channeling our souls to the machine is eternal life. Like any other empire, we must build from the ground up, and that's what Imhotep does. After 60 million years of slumber, you tend to figure it out. He should be called the Combo Lord. His first ability is our built-in win con, Pharaon. Whenever one or more artifacts leave your graveyard, create 2/2/2 black Necron artifact creature tokens. We're going to utilize this ability mostly, but there are other synergies and potential combos that evolve as you play. I will forever refer to these as shifting combos. Combo lines that evolve through gameplay. His second ability is critical early game. Although it seems less impactful, it is in fact a tempo piece. You'll be able to pipe a few early creatures through to your opponents and ideally draw some of the removal and other shenanigans to free up space for the combo setup. To build our empire, we must establish a sacrifice outlet and a recursion engine. You know what they say, you can't keep a good robot down. Krark Clan Ironworks that gives you 2 mana for sacrificing any artifact, or Ashnod's Altar, which gives you 2 for sacrificing a creature, or even Phyrexian Altar, which gives you 1 black for sacrificing a creature. They are the driving force. Imhotep's first ability is the key trigger to all of these combos. The idea for my specific build is similar to most of my combo decks. It's designed to not be CDH, but also has the potential to be upgraded. Graveyard hate is extremely prevalent, and if a player specs in a graveyard exile more than the typical staples, you're going to have a difficult time advancing. The only downside to the tremendous momentum is a soft spot in the belly. I have found the most important approach to gameplay has been to slow burn. You do not want to put all your combo pieces out without having something to do with them. Which is why with an average CMC of a little over 2, which is misleading because of Mycosynth, Blightsteel, and Metalwork, it puts us on par to play something during the early game. Once sacrifice outlets and a return source, or graveyard manipulator, are established, it's time to get Imhotep out and start making stuff happen. You can often find enough methods to return without actually going infinite to overrun the opposition. And your own deck can even be designed to facilitate that as a plan A, perhaps Warrior Tribal. We're going to look at 2 straightforward engines, or loops, that are our direct lines to going infinite, and thus our win cons. First up is the Retriever loop. When we find 2 pieces such as Mirror Retriever, Scrap Trawler, and Workshop Assistant, or Junk Diver, they can be endlessly looped with an altar, and the Necrons can then be sacrificed as well to create an infinite mana loop. If you have Phyrexian Altar, you will definitely need the Mirror Retriever to gain infinite mana. Since its CMC is 2, we would only net 1 mana every loop with Phyrexian Altar. If you have Trawler and Assistant, you could still win via Agent of the Iron Throne, or Marionette Master, Nadir's Nightblade, or Sir Conrad of the Grim, or any other aristocrat style, which will also net the win with any combination of the above. So henceforth, any creature that returns an artifact upon death is known as a Retriever. So it's simple. Ashnod's Altar, or KCI, Imhotep, 2 Retrievers, and you have now gone infinite, because you'll always be able to pay for the recast of the Retriever with mana from sacrificed Necrons. For the cause! It helps to have reducers such as Cloud Key or Foundry Inspector, and then things begin to move a little faster. The Colossus loop. One of the other combos built in, and typically my Entomb, Unmarked Grave, or Buried Alive targets, are Metalwork Colossus and Scourge Familiar, which will net infinite mana with Imhotep in play. The way it works is, sacrifice any 2 artifacts to return Colossus from the yard to hand. Create 2 Necrons, then discard Colossus to Familiar to net 1 black mana. Then repeat by sacking the 2 newly assimilated Necrons and returning Metalwork to hand again. / repeat. This is not the overrun approach, and you'll need something to do with the mana, because it requires the sack of your new Necrons, which is a solid closer if you have an Aristocrat out. This is even more cracked if you have enough artifacts to meet Metalwork Colossus' opening ability. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. Then he turns into an entire different combo piece, with untap abilities such as Draw Scorpion or maybe even Clock of Omens, and single-use ability bombs like Chronomancer, who is another key to the shifting combos. He'll allow us to draw our entire library, in which case, drop Altar of Dementia and just keep looping for the mill win. You can even win by untapping Millikin over and over and put your whole library in the yard, and retriever loop your Altar or Aristocrat out, or even steal Overseer, who will enable the overrun route once you drop unlimited +1/+1 counters. And occasionally other lines to long combos and shifting combos will form. And they often involve this heavy hitter, Mycosynth Golem. Was an absolute banger in this build with a second ability that gives your artifact creature spells affinity for artifacts, so you can begin to play loops for free. Spine of Ish-Sah. I've looped this degenerate artifact before with Retrievers, Dross, and Cryptek to completely eliminate the opponent's entire field, lands and all. That happens because if you use Cryptek ability on a sacrifice Retriever, it will come back to play to be sacrificed again, giving you 2 Retriever triggers. I've also been able to string together combos with an untap factor and use Trading Post to make and sacrifice creatures, and then use the untap abilities with the creatures still on the stack to tap post again and draw a card. You can facilitate unlimited tokens and mana and then draw your whole library. This is the epitome of the term shifting combos. They just form as you play, by sheer synergy alone. Imhotep is the pharaoh of that premise, but beware, it is very convoluted and should never be your game plan, but oftentimes it will just fall into place. Ways to fill the yard and get things out of it. Okay, it's only necessary to get cards in your yard as fast as possible, as well as get them out. This is along the lines of the constant strategy you'll be pursuing since turn 1. Without access to blue, we have to find alternate routes to self-mill. Naturally Entomb, Unmarked Grave, and Buried Alive. We put our win cons right in the yard for us to assemble the proper combo. We have other ways to get stuff from the library too. Altar of Dementia can be used on ourselves, and for that is almost a hypocritical card choice. But this is our first line to a win con once we establish an infinite. It can also help us out too, maybe by sacrificing blockers or our own creatures that get targeted. Mesmeric Orb. It's absolutely insane here because nothing else will likely fill the yard as fast. Once you couple this with a few other shifting combo pieces like Dross or Clock, you can watch your whole library dump into the yard with the untaps. From there, we can begin to line up the game closer. It will also slow down and inhibit most other players, and because of that, draws a bit of hate. Hopefully it puts in enough work for you before it gets destroyed. Even a couple turns with this out can put you several turns ahead in regards to tempo. Perpetual Timepiece. Very underrated, and any deck that uses recursion as a mechanic should consider this. It always puts work in. Its last ability, although can only be used once, is an Imhotep trigger, and there when you need it. Like an ace up the sleeve. Scrabbling Claws. It's a neat one-drop that can pop out Imhotep triggers on demand. Of course it's exiled, so the target is gone forever. You can also pitch your ops combo pieces. Out of the Tomb starts slow, but exponentially grows in value every turn. It's almost under the radar enough that most players let it slide for a while. Think about it. By the third upkeep after coming into play, you will have put 12 cards in your yard. If it makes it around again, now you've netted 20 cards. That should be enough coupled with one Retriever to find a line to the infinite. Tokasia's Dig Site is a really neat here, because it can give you mana without coming into play tapped. It won't slow you down. It can also help you mill that hitter or combo piece into the yard every turn. Millikin. Mana and Graveyard Love. Everything we're trying to do is stapled on the back of this mana dork. If you can manage to untap him, he can possibly mill your library. Phyrexian Reclamation and Tortured Existence. They are top tier Imhotep triggers. Coming in at 1 mana each, they will take our targets out of the yard and put them into hand. There's ways to create the mana to use either of these as part of the shifting combos, although Phyrexian Reclamation requires 2 life as part of its activation. If you need to use it, you will likely find the win line before you've actually eliminated yourself. Just like the Necron army conquering new worlds, we can find more Imhotep triggers to add to the Terminator army from simply playing our lands. Haunted Fengraf, Memorial to Folly, Mortuary Mire, Sequestered Stash, Tomb Fortress, Witch's Cottage, and Takenuma Abandoned Mire can all send things to the yard and return something. It may be the Retriever or whatever piece you need to string together a combo. The fact it's a monocolored deck makes the use of its utility lands much more effective, where they are more costly to our game plan in multicolored builds. They may slow down the mana base. They shine here with Imhotep strings attached. You may even bog yourself early to turn a few Necrons, which is along the lines of their early game approach, just to establish a board presence. Okay, we've learned about the loops and accidental combos Imhotep can facilitate, but let's take a closer look at some of those honorable mentions available to us to wreak biomechanical havoc on our foes. Nim Deathmantle, return creatures to the battlefield from the yard, so effectively creating 2 Necrons. This can be exploited a bit further when you have one of the Retrievers in an altar, which can be turned into a shifting combo. Say you have 1 Retriever, you can now sack it to the altar or Xeris with untap enablers and find 4 mana. Return it to play and create 2 Necrons and do that infinitely, all while returning artifacts from your graveyard each time. Say, Spine of Ish-Sah. Mycosynth Lattice and Biotransference turns everything into artifacts, which can really cause some extra distress while recurring from the yard. You must be cautious with Biotransference though, because it will cause you to lose 1 life every time you cast an artifact spell. For this reason, it's more synergy than combo enabler, but the bonus Necron can make or break another combo line. Lattice is always good to go and will allow you to loop other creatures you normally wouldn't be able to. Say Shifting Combo evolves and you can play Marionette Master over and over, dropping a Serbo army all along the way. This could be the key to victory. Disciple of the Vault. Whenever an artifact leaves play, target opponent loses 1 life. Honestly, the best Aristocrat simply because it's a 1-drop. This little guy will get the job done once you go infinite and all along the way. Although, he may not be as fancy or flashy as some of the other aristocrats.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. Getting voted into the White House. Everything looking good to the people of the world, but the Murphy family is my boss.
Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our journey to universal domination. This Cyberdyne system shell will get you started on your path to degeneracy, like me. Links to the deck list and Ironborn Discord are located below. Join us for free leagues with prize support. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to feed the fish.
Upset me, or I'll send 1,000,000 troops to die at war.